everybody, it's Wednesday, time for Wisdom Wednesday. Hope you all had a great holiday weekend and enjoyed yourself, but now are getting back on track as far as nutrition and exercise. Speaking of exercise, I did have a patient that sent me an article this week by Dr. Mercola regarding exercise, and I think that there's some valuable information in here that maybe some of us could utilize as far as how we want to plan our exercise. I know I've done some recent discussions about that, but I thought this was actually an additional bit of information that can be quite valuable in terms of understanding that it's not about really hours and hours at the gym. It's finding that sweet spot for you that really enables you to reach the benefits of exercise without having to overdo it. And it's interesting that for many people, overdoing long distance and things like marathons, triathlons, etc., overdoing those types of things and in long-term endurance type of exercise actually is more harmful than doing nothing. Very fascinating information. There's been a doctor out of Missouri that did a meta-analysis of a lot of different studies, and there appears to be this J-curve, meaning that none is not great. Doing the sweet spot is wonderful, but going beyond that begins to increase more risk. And one of the things that's particularly a high risk issue is people doing a lot of long-term endurance exercises can increase your risk for atrial fibrillation 500 to 800%. That's pretty significant. And there's been some studies with numerous large cohorts that have shown this. And I've always said that, that first marathon runner did die. So I think that there may be a lot of you out there that feel like, gosh, I should probably just do one in my lifetime, and really probably not. So I don't think we need to overdo it, and I think that the data would definitely support that. I think the other thing is that in exercise, you cannot overdo moderate exercise. You can really not do too much of that. A lot of folks are talking about what's called zone 2 training. And zone 2 training basically means that you are doing some type of exercise, whether it's swimming or walking or riding a bike, but you can still talk at a very reasonable way of talking without being too short of breath. And that would be considered zone 2 for most people. I would imagine that most people maximum heart rate somewhere between 160 and 180. And zone 2 is heart rate maybe around 120, 130, which means that you're not really overwhelmingly sweating with it, that you can still talk, and you could go on and on and on moderately like that for a period of time. You don't really need to do it, but you just cannot really overdo it and make it be a negative in your health journey. We know that people that do community type activities, that say pickleball, tennis, golf, badminton, other things, biking, swimming with groups, have a much more a higher benefit with that over the time periods. They've done some studies with tennis players that actually live longer as this community type activity is concerned, and not competitive tennis, but just playing for sheer enjoyment and for moderate amount of exercise. So I think that that's really important. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about high intensity interval training, and this is one of the things I learned many years ago, I believe through even Dr. Mercola. One of the handouts that I give is a 20-minute HIIT exercise program. And basically what it is doing a little bit of a warm-up, and however you choose to get your heart rate up over time. Oftentimes, if I'm, say, on a treadmill, I will crank it up to 8 or 9 miles an hour, which for me is a pretty good pace, and because I'm not a big runner. But you do 30 seconds there, and then you get off for 90 seconds and let your heart rate recover. So this high-intensity interval training, you do 8 of those 2-minute intervals, and you think, oh, it's pretty good going here for the first 3 or 4, but by the time you get to that 7th or 8th, you're really getting closer and closer to your maximum heart rate and finding it a lot more challenging to do that. But knowing how to do that is one thing, but knowing how often to do it. You don't want to do something like that every day. You want to do that periodically. You want to have at least one day in between, and probably no more than 60 minutes of that. So a 20-minute high intensity interval workout 3 times a week is plenty of cardio, and it definitely works on both your sympathetic and parasympathetic tone, so you're reaching maximum heart rate, but you're also allowing for recovery, which is great for what we call parasympathetic tone, that rest and digest side of the autonomic nervous system, as opposed to the accelerator or the fight or flight side of the autonomic nervous system. So high intensity interval work is great. It's not something you want to do every day. You need a day of recovery in between. So just 3 days a week is plenty. And keeping in mind too, that at the end of the day, the idea of doing just a modest amount of exercise, the studies are showing that anywhere from, say, 40 to 60 minutes a week is really great, particularly for, say, a high intensity interval work or cardio type workout. But going beyond, say, 130 to 140 minutes may have more detrimental effects as far as longevity is concerned. So at the bottom line, I'm just going to kind of walk through the end of this study that Dr. O'Keefe showed. He said it's one's goal to decrease the risk of cardiovascular events and improve life expectancy. A regular regimen of moderate exercise is adequate. Very high doses of strenuous exercise may attenuate some of those benefits bestowed by less extreme efforts. The best forms of exercise improve mental health as well as longevity, and they appear to be the social types of sports such as tennis, golf, badminton, soccer, basketball, volleyball, and group exercises. These not only improve fitness but promote interpersonal bonding and tend to reduce stress. So the benefits are beyond just the exercise itself. The current body of data is not strong enough to recommend recreational athletes reduce their exercise dose, especially if there's something that improves their quality of life, or is needed to optimize performance in competitions, such as the risks appear to be modest and somewhat uncertain yet. Even so, we should emphasize the maximal benefit for cardiovascular risk reduction occurs at much lower, safer, and more moderate exercise. So you don't have to go out and just sort of balls to the wall, go after strenuous exercise and hardcore cardio. You can really attain what you need to attain at a more modest level of working out. Don't get the wrong message here. I'm not saying don't work out. We know that the benefits of exercise are quite valuable, but we don't have to overdo it, and staying at that 120 heart rate may have a much better benefit. So just doing even an hour-long walk is perfectly fine, but you don't have to go out and pound the pavement. You can actually take a nice stroll, do it with a loved one, do more sports with other people, and feel confident that you are getting a great benefit with those types of exercises as well. Hope that's been a benefit to you. You all have a great week, and we will talk again next week.